Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are gonna be looking at a scenario where Turkey forms an empire. Yeah, this guy. Okay. Alright, so that's a lot of. Okay, so this is Turkey, right? Well, Turkey is gonna get a makeover. But it is not. I mean, technically it's stronger than all of its neighbors. I was gonna say it's not stronger than most of its neighbors, but it's definitely. And probably even with Greece. These two are probably evenly matched, and the rest isn't. But we are gonna see what happens when they form an empire. So, where do they want to expand to first? Yeah, okay. They're just instantly gone. Yep. Okay, well that didn't last long. So they take over Cyprus, and they do it pretty quick. Oops. So yeah, this is what the new borders look like. Oops. So this is what the new borders already look like. They took over all of Cyprus. But what else are they gonna go after before they go after the rest? They're probably gonna go after the Middle East right now. Specifically Syria. And sure enough, that's exactly what they're gonna do. They declare war on Syria and move across the border. As we see them approaching and taking a lot of land. Yeah. They're mostly aiming to cut them off from the sea. Not that it matters that much, but it'll stop anyone from helping them. And so we see the front line look a little bit like this, with them heavily focusing on this area. So, yeah, I mean, what's gonna happen? You guys already know it probably. They're gonna fight back, and we see them actually do great. Since Turkey wasn't expecting a lot of resistance, and the resistance they got was a lot more. Unfortunately for them, yeah, Turkey is just a lot stronger and probably has some help from European allies. Oh, Germany just casually had 3 capitals. Same goes for Belgium. That's the wrong capital. Yeah, let's ignore that part. Okay, anyway. So yeah, they're probably getting a lot of help from European countries, right? Because Turkey is an ally. And if Turkey takes over the Middle East, then the Middle East is their ally. See the point where I'm getting at? Yeah. I don't know how international relationships work. Anywho, we see them continue their invasion, and it's going pretty well for Turkey. Syria's resistance is collapsing. Mostly because of other issues. But yeah, we see this becoming the new border, and we see the resistance falling, making them efficiently surrender. And so we see them annex all of it. Yep. They annex all of Syria. And that made them border. Oops. Their capital. Oh, I never gave them a capital, that's right. And that made them border Israel. Now, that's not great for Israel. But Turkey is not worried about them yet, as it is going after Iraq. And I colored in the wrong layer. And sure enough, oops. Sure enough, the Turkish army pushes in slowly. And yeah, I mean, it's doing great, guys. We see them cross and cross. And we see we see the Iraqi army. I think that's what it's called. I don't know, but we see the army of Iraq struggling a lot to hold back such a big front line. Expectedly, like, come on, it's not. It's one thing holding a border, but it's a lot harder when your border looks like this. Like, that's a massive front line to defend. So we see Turkey have a lot of success in the early stages of the war. Unfortunately for Turkey, Iran didn't like that they were taking all this land in the Middle East. And so we see Iran join in on their own side to take chunks of them. And they clash against the Turkish forces, taking over the capital and a lot of the rest, forming a border that looks something like this before Iraq officially surrendered to Turkey. Now let's look at the peace treaty. So now the border looks something like this, and Turkey was looking very strong. It basically had a control over this sea, this little part of it at least, like this. I mean, it's probably more like this. But they did control it. And now they had a sea border here. But it wasn't big enough for Turkey. Turkey didn't like that it was such a small region next to an enemy. Well, future enemy. Right now they think they're allies. But yeah. Can expect to know how that will go. And so we see Turkey declare war on Kuwait. And yeah, that's not gonna go well for Kuwait, as they take the capital of Kuwait and the war is basically over. See, well, Turkey is not is not like how do you say it? They're not as strong as Russia yet, or the USA or China, but they are pretty much stronger than Kuwait. And so this is what it looks like. They annexed all of Kuwait. Now the goal was simple. There were 4 countries left that they desperately needed. Here. These 4. Or 3. For some of you watching. But they declared war on all of them at the same time. Which made some other countries nervous. Including these 2. These 3, I mean. And Saudi Arabia. These weren't worried too. These guys weren't worried. Turkey was not gonna come for them. They were too far into the desert and they had no strategic reason to go that far. For now. So we see Turkey invade into Jordan. So we see them send forces into Jordan and also push forces into Israel and Lebanon. Now, this is probably a little bit on the unrealistic side, but Turkey wants to reform an empire. Well, wants to form a new empire. So we see them easily invade these countries. Even though this is basically a one giant landmine and would probably sink into the ocean. But I don't do that, so we see them continue their invasion into Jordan and take the capital. We also see them invade into Palestine, but that's gonna get me into a lot of problems. But we see them basically defeat the countries here and tell them to surrender. And Jordan did. Jordan said, nope, we are better off under Turkey. But Israel was not like that. But they were gonna have to anyway, because the USA was not coming to their help this time. And so, let's look at the peace treaty. And so we see these be the new borders of the empire. I mean, that's a good empire already, right? They own a lot of the Middle East. But they were not that happy with that. But they were gonna let the Middle East be. And go up here, actually. So that's kind of the problem. They wanted to form an empire. They wanted these two countries. Specifically, they wanted more, actually. So, Persia, aka Iran, here, and Turkey formed a pact. They'll divide up these three countries between themselves. And that's exactly what they're gonna do. Turkey began its invasion of Armenia and quickly took over the Panhandle, forming a clear line where the new border would be drawn. And so Georgia also loses their capital, including Armenia. Yeah, Armenia's dead already. But Iran was not gonna let Turkey have all the fun, and they invaded into Azerbaijan. And we see them push up and push up and push up until they formed a clear defensive line towards this side, as they continue their invasion to the left, clearly suggesting where the new line would be, and Azerbaijan surrenders. These two, they basically do the same. This part surrenders. This part also surrenders now. And they're left with the Caucasus, the very annoying mountains. But I don't do the geography. I mean, I don't do the physical mountain. I don't include those. And so they surrender. Now let's look at peace treaty. And so we see the new borders. Yeah. Turkey basically retook, well, it took Georgia and Armenia and a little bit of Azerbaijan, but Iran took most of it. And the borders look kind of ugly. But that's expected from me, so let's continue. Now, who is gonna be their next target? Would it be Egypt? Maybe. But I feel like they would not go after the Middle East at the moment, because otherwise someone else might have a little say in it over there, since they don't want Turkey to control all the oil. And not to forget, these two are technically enemies. This also formed into a coalition, but this was also now becoming a coalition. One coalition that involved Russia. Uh-oh. One coalition that also involved Serbia. Uh-oh. But for the rest, that's about it for now. Except Turkey actually also got a member. There, that's allies color. So, but we see Turkey go after someone else, this time in Europe. We see them go after Bulgaria. And it's gonna be harder to push up out of this little area, but we see them do it successfully anyway and climb up the coast. This was horrible, as it was allowing them to keep pushing. And someone else had also a say in it. Serbia decided to make its move on Bulgaria as well and take the capital of Sofia. That wasn't great, as Turkey wanted all the land for themselves, But they did not want to risk a conflict with all of these guys. So they decided to ramp up their invasion plan and actually managed to extend all the way over here and stop Serbia's expansion. As Serbia didn't dare to expand any further into Hungarian Turkish occupation zones. So we saw the surrender of them. Now let's look at the peace treaty. But that wasn't enough yet. They had still 4 targets in the Balkans that they desperately wanted. But they didn't want to do it alone. And so they called in help from someone who they fought alongside in World War I. For a little bit. That's right, Turkey also joins the conflict. Now you're asking, what conflict could they possibly join on Turkey's side? Well, that's a very simple answer. It's about north of Turkey. Sorry, Romania. It's just not your day. As we see the Turkish troops advance into their country, looking to cut them off completely from the sea, which they were actually succeeding to. And they were about to take the capital of Bucharest? Is it Bucharest? I don't know, what is the capital of Romania? Bucharest, yeah, see Bucharest. Budapest is here, Bucharest is there. Very confusing for me sometimes. But we see them advance on Bucharest and take the city, or well, the capital. Now, what about Turkey? I said, what about Hungary? I said they would join, right? Well, they did. They wanted their former land back and decided, why not? Third time the charm. Not technically the second time, but well, maybe the third time, maybe the 50th time. I don't know how many times they tried it. But we see them basically invade into Romania and have a lot of success. Success that worried Serbia. Because if these two control the area, then access to Russia is a lot harder. But that is for bad guys, because you suck. It's not your video, Serbia. Get out of here. So we see Hungary make actually great progress, taking a lot of their former land back. Before meeting up with the Turkish forces down south. Which was basically like, oh, okay, this area surrenders. And with that area surrendering and this area finally losing access to the sea, Romania collapsed. Now, let's look at the peace treaty, shall we? And so we see a horrible border. Yep, that's very horrible border. And it actually upset Turkey a lot. I mean, who does it not upset? It looks horrible. So, Turkey finally deciding that they had enough, declared war on one enemy and one enemy forever. Greece. You thought I was gonna say Serbia, didn't you? Okay, you know what I mean, but I'm coloring in all the islands, but I mean that's not gonna. There are major islands, boom, you know the thing. So we see Turkey invade into Greece. That's not great. And Greece quickly wants to reach an agreement. The agreement is simple. Surrender over this. And give us these islands. And that's exactly what Greece did. So let's look at the finalized peace treaty because Greece did not want to fight Turkey. So this is a new finalized treaty that happened, and it makes the borders look a lot less ugly. But yeah, so what's gonna happen now? They still had 2 targets in the Middle East to go after, but Europe was basically done. Romania is pretty messed up, and yeah. Greece also got their arm chopped off technically, but it's fine. They had a few more targets. One was here, one was here, and one was here, one was here, and one was here. They had a total of 5 targets left. I cannot count. Technically, Russia's not a target, though. I mean, they want land from it, but it's technically not a target. They would have been fine without taking it. So we see them do one more idiotic thing, and that is they decide to declare war on these 2 at the same time. Why? Because Turkey is very strong now, thanks to all their endeavors. And we see them invade into Saudi Arabia. Wow, speech problems. And we see them make great progress. Though it's a very big country, so I mean, great progress is... Technically, this is great progress, but it's fine. It's not great, it's not bad. But we see them make a lot of progress, and we even see them start to just dive towards the capital. Mostly because the rest is empty desert, and that's not much of strategic value. It's also probably very hot in this region at the moment, so they want to make it fast. So we see them spearhead towards it, and with a lot of success capture the city. A little bit more fighting later, and this side surrendered. And as the fighting continued, more and more began to surrender, including this area and some more little chunks, which then made Saudi Arabia completely surrender. Now, unfortunately for Turkey, because of it, they managed to push into Jordan and Israel and Palestine. Wow. Luckily for Turkey, though, that wasn't going to be lived long, as the Turkish armed forces rushed back into the country with more force than they could probably manage. And they started pushing into Egypt slowly. Mostly because they were going to be more careful with pyramids and such. But they weren't going to take Egypt, a lot of from Egypt, okay? They were just... But it doesn't matter anyway. And they take Cairo. My knowledge of capitals is growing. But with the fall of Cairo and the following of the river by Turkish forces, Egypt basically surrendered. Well, let's look at the peace treaty. And so these are the new borders. I wouldn't say that's too bad. It's kind of like Ottoman Empire, but not at all. But it kind of is, but it kind of ain't. You know, the drill. So only 3 targets remained. And they look to Hungary to promise one thing: take out Serbia. As the Turkish troops would focus on these 2. And sure enough, we see the invasion begin. The Turkish forces storm into Iran to take, well, technically it's former Iraq, but to take back the land that they had to give up previously. This, however, caused Russia to get involved. And so we see them push into Russia as well. Just a little bit to keep the fighting from their own land. But we see them mostly focus on cutting off Iran from its northern area to stop the income of Russian supplies. Would that stop the supply? I mean, they could technically go through the Caspian. And through centrally, oh well. And we see them take over Azerbaijan almost completely, leaving only Baku and a little bit more. However, it was unfortunately also cut off and they lost it anyway. And then we see the push into Russia. Turkey was now committing to the push up north a little bit more than before, because of the soldiers that got a little more freer. And so we see them continue the invasion of Iran. And while Iran did fight back, they were not able to fight hard enough. They had been struggling with a lot of internal issues, and Turkey is also just buffed in this scenario. And so Iran is gonna surrender. Iran didn't want to, but Iran was losing and it was starting to fragment internally, with many rebellions rising up, so they surrendered. And that left two problems. Hungary was invading into Serbia, Russia couldn't help them, and Russia was being invaded themselves. Now, Serbia did manage to take over parts of this because there were not a lot of Turkish forces here, which did give them sea access a little bit. But it was not enough to stop the main army that was now arriving. And we see them being pushed back almost entirely. I don't know if you guys thought that Serbia would actually stand a chance. If you did, you're very brave. If you didn't, well, then you're on the right path. Because you were right. Serbia did not survive. And now it just was Russia, who was losing too much land and decided, you know what, we're pulling out of this war. We were not supposed to be fighting it to begin with. So they pulled out and surrendered. Now let's look at the final P3 of this video, guys. And so, guys, these were the new borders. As we can see, Iran lost a lot of land. They used to own all of this, and now they own this. It was a tragic loss for them. They once had all of this land, and now they lost it to Turkey once again. I mean, once again, what? But Turkey basically became a very big empire now in the Middle East. We also see them take a little bit of land from Russia. Not too much, since they didn't really care about Russia, and they didn't want that much land. Now, Serbia is probably got messed up the most, as you can tell. Like, Serbia is not having a good time. This is what remains of Serbia. Serbia was turned into a little country. Just basically the same size as Kosovo. And that's basically what we see happen. This is the Turkish Empire, guys. Now that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next episode. What would you like to see improved? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll be watching, and I'll be listening. See you next time. Bye.